Hey, it's Jeff Hyman, your startup therapist, where we focus on the people part of startups and early stage companies. I'm joined today by an old friend, Martha Josephson. Hey, Martha.
I am not old.
I didn't mean old friend. I meant we've known each other a long time. How's that?
Donkey's years.
It's great to see you. Martha, I'll briefly introduce you and then I want to get right into it. You've been doing search for years and you've done, I'm guessing, hundreds and hundreds of searches, if not thousands?
Yeah, probably up in there. But again, I'm not old.
You're far from it. Have you ever counted how many searches you've done?
No. They never asked me. I think the firm probably knows, but I have no idea.
So the firm you're referring to is Egon Zehnder. Martha, you, as I understand it, head up the firm's global digital media practice. And I guess you kind of created that practice years ago when...
Well, it's interestingly, I'm sort of emeritus. So I had nothing to do when I joined the firm in 1996. So out of complete desperation...
Yeah.
By the way, a lot of creativity comes from desperation. I decided to look into this internet thing, and so I've just been doing it for a very long time, since 1996. Luckily, I was able to pass the global leadership. I mean, maybe I'm still some sort of figurehead, but there's a very cool global leadership in all parts of the world now, and probably 80 to 100 of us focus mainly on digital.
Got it. And a lot of that, I'm sure, is finding people that are disruptors that can take industries and apply technology to really reshape those industries.
Yes, but it's easier said than done. What we're really all about is creating a cross-pollination, because Silicon Valley needs new blood. I mean, my goodness, when you're starting a company, for example, Google, and you know that company is going to be different from anything else in Silicon Valley, you're looking all over the world and in every industry for sort of talent that can do jobs that maybe haven't been done before.
Right.
And that's very important to us here in Silicon Valley. What industries, you name it, food and beverage, retail, industrial manufacturing, health, financial services, they're all looking for Silicon Valley blood to go in the other direction.
Right.
And both are hard. Coming new to Silicon Valley, you have to figure out how this area works. But, going to work for McDonald's to bring a digital perspective, for example, to that company, that's a difficult culture transition too. So what we're searching for people and talents and resume profiles. But what we're really trying to do is ease transitions so that both we in Silicon Valley stay fresh and not stale, and so that everybody else who feels that they want to disrupt rather than be disrupted has the right kind of talent coming from here or technology in general, and fitting in well there. So it's search has gotten really subtle and complicated.
There's a lot of art to it, I'm sure.
There's a lot of art. But you know what? There's like an information revolution. You also have so much more information and measurement tools. And gosh, our reference checking has almost become scientific.
How so? When you say reference checking, that's an interesting part of the process. But what are some of the best practices now in reference checking?
It depends on the level. But we now have a series of very objective questions to ask people. We have the ability to search the internet and find almost anything about anybody.
Sure.
And it's not as subjective as it used to be, where you'd call 5 people somebody worked for, and you'd get a sort of a picture, you hope.
Right.
Now you do that, but you can also do data searches and search records and figure out if there's any skeletons in the closet that way. And that's we use a really good outside service and our own researchers to do that. But that just gotten more robust and more predictable. So yeah, it's totally art. It's totally art in terms of the culture fit and assessing it. But you've now got a lot of tools to verify that. So the science is getting bigger too.
I'm guessing one of the most important tools is still the interview. And I get a lot of questions about best practices in an interview. What have you learned that are questions and ways to conduct an interview that are predictive of a candidate's success versus a waste of time and not predictive of a candidate's success?
I'll go on a limb here. It's interviews don't have a lot of predictive success.
Really?
I mean, there's no set of questions, I believe,
Yep.
that can get you to it. After doing this for so long, some of it's the 5-second instinct that you just know the candidate is going to be interesting and a fit or not. And then what do you do for the other 55 minutes? Interviews, particularly for non-professional interviews, don't have a lot. Interviewers don't actually have a lot of value besides the pheromone test.
Mm-hmm.
Does this feel okay?
Right.
I think the people who are hiring who don't do it as a matter of course, actually, it's useful for them to have really trusted co-interviewers or have an interview process so you can triangulate that pheromone test. And then obviously you do want to ask the questions about skill sets and the things you're really hiring for, but you're not going to get a sense of profound, deep insight in an hour.
Just not going to happen.
Not going to happen. So you put a lot of other factors into the process that help you evaluate.
So if not interviews, then what, and reference checks you mentioned, what other means for a non-professional interviewer who doesn't do this for a living, if I'm a founder or a CEO, what other things should I be doing that can help me accurately or predict a candidate's success or fit?
I think it's having that hour conversation, doing really solid referencing, and maybe doing some personality tests or some screening. There are a whole bunch of tools, 16BDF, Hogan, that you can use to sort of put some facts and science behind, your sniff test, which I still think is the biggest and most important factor. People should be more confident about that, not less.
So tell me about the sniff test. You referred to it a couple times. This is to understand fit or how the two of us might work together and might engage.
All of that.
Culture,
values, personality, and then you back it up with the other things I was mentioning.
Right. So
but it's that if the two people walk into the room and there's a click, that is very, very, very important. And then you go back it up.
All else being equal, what you're saying is fit is as important, if not more so, than skills and experience. You'd actually give the edge to a candidate that is a better culture fit, especially at an early stage company, I'm guessing, versus someone that has amazing skills and experience but is less of a culture fit.
Exactly.
Got it. When doing reference checking, I can envision the questions I would ask to understand someone's performance and do they deliver. How about the fit and culture? Are there ways to reference check that, or is that really just from that sniff test interview?
I think you ask those soft questions of people who would know the person and who you could trust.
So a common link, a common connection.
Yeah, a common link. Now, if you don't know anybody, you can get some help through your network. You can ask the person for their references, and then, ask the soft questions. That's not verifying fact. That's asking opinion.
Can you give an example or two?
Well, I mean, for example, if you're now the caveat is I work with a lot of larger companies. I work with founders too.
Yep.
If somebody walks into your company with grill creamed hair and a suit and tie, or on the female end loaded to the gills with bling and jewelry and all of that stuff, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel like, oh boy, this is really a great athlete and they'd do a really good job for me and I'm moving up in the world? Or, oh my God, I can't imagine this person fitting in?
Yeah.
Blink reaction is very important.
Got it. You've done a lot of recruiting work for, as you said, for big companies. I know Google is one of them. I just finished reading this amazing book.
Which one? There are a lot of them.
No, it was Google Works, I think, and it was.
Well, that's Laszlo's book. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so just phenomenal insights on how Google has built this recruiting machine over time. There's so much legendary myth about how Google emphasizes intellect, just raw horsepower, brains, education, GPA. What have you learned about that over time as a predictor of success, regardless of role, regardless of function, in terms of just raw intellectual horsepower? And
Well, the fascinating thing about Google in the early days was, as I mentioned, these jobs that were designed that nobody in the world really did before. And they didn't want to hire people who were too steeped in Silicon Valley. We all knew this was going to be a global company. And so we, in another great book, which is How Google Works by Eric Schmidt and Jonathan Rosenberg,
yep.
I talk a little bit in that book about opening the aperture. And I'll get to another key implication of that. But if you're a founding CEO and you're trying to hire people, just hire really good athletes and mix and match the jobs. You don't have to be out of a Harvard Business School case with an org chart. Like sometimes you don't need marketing.
Right.
But whoever you hire as something else can do much of that job. You want to sort of double up and triple up on jobs, which suggests you want to find great athletes.
That's in the early stages until things settle down a bit?
Until you actually need to define roles.
Right.
You just hire an athlete who can do many different things and let them, over time, they'll define their own roles. Google in the early years was all about that. Now, the other place that opening the aperture comes in is these diversity issues. Like, I can't hire women who look like my profile. Well, open the aperture. What if you changed your profile,
right,
so that some women would begin to, or other diverse characters would begin to fit into that?
Got it. Is there a certain stage that you've seen where the org chart does seem to settle down, a certain number of people, where you start to shift from hiring these best athlete, versatile people to more, functional specialists? Is it when you get to 50 people or 100 people, 1,000 people?
I don't think there's any rule, and I think you want to keep doing what I'm talking about as long as you possibly can. Google still does it that way.
What's the downside of that, or the complication of that?
The complication of that is if you get some sharp elbows in there, if you get people with sort of competing to do different jobs. But by and large, if you've got a good culture and really great people and enough teamwork built into your culture, you should just not spend so much time on the job specs and just hire really smart people.
Got it. Let's shift gears in this last few minutes we have to talk about board level issues. So if I'm a founder or a CEO or an entrepreneur, what have you learned about when I should get my board involved in helping me recruit versus not getting involved? What do we do if we don't agree on the finalist candidate? Should I defer to the board, or should I kind of hold my ground because I'm the hiring manager? What have you learned about best practices there?
I don't think there's any rule I've been able to formulate. If you and your board are disagreeing on a given hire, just move on.
To another candidate.
Yeah, get another candidate. I wouldn't see any reason why you wouldn't involve your board in recruiting, especially at the early stages where you need validation as much as anything else.
Right.
You don't have much to go on.
Yep.
So I don't think there's any downside in having those silver-tongued devils.
Oh, do you mean to help sell candidates?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. I understand. And again, if we disagree, you think it's so important to have alignment, move on to another candidate. Don't settle or don't defer. A good example I hear a lot is a CFO, right? The board needs to feel comfortable with the finalist CFO candidate, but it may not be a fit with the CEO or the founder of the business. It sounds like we shouldn't just defer, we should keep going.
Yeah, you keep going. Keep going. More often, it's like, I don't think we need a CFO, and the board says, "Oh yeah, you do."
Yeah, got it.
That's a troubled search.
How has LinkedIn changed this whole thing, this whole world of finding candidates? A lot of our viewers hire candidates that are not senior level; they're mid level. Product managers, developers, etc. How has LinkedIn kind of changed the whole game?
Well, even at the VP level, LinkedIn has taken lots of points off my cost line. I don't have to employ people to go search libraries and annual reports to find people. It's just automated, so it's almost like the lowest value part of my value chain.
Yeah,
has now been removed.
Right.
And I can focus on the really high value stuff, like making sure these transitions from one environment to another actually work.
Got it. So it's become the most important research tool, candidate identification tool?
No, number one most important is my network and the people I trust.
Sure.
I just when I say smart, they know what I mean.
Right.
But yeah, for just doing a long list, yeah, it's a pretty key tool. I don't see any other competition out there for it, but it's not the best tool. The best tool is people you trust.
Got it. I spent a lot of time coaching entrepreneurs and CEOs around building their network, not
Yep.
for their own career, but for recruiting purposes.
Yeah, you have to have people who know what you mean when you say something and can just instantly say, yeah, you'd like that person, you wouldn't like that person.
And it saves you a lot of time on reference checking because you're getting someone you already know and trust referring versus a stranger.
It's a pre-screen.
Yeah, right.
So that network is very relevant.
Great. This has been very helpful. Martha, how can people learn more about Egon Zehnder and the digital media practice and get in touch with you if they're interested?
So it's egonzehnder.com, and it's spelled ludicrously, EGONZEHNDER, and I spell that 40 times a day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
.com, and I'm Martha Josephson in Palo Alto, and if you Google me, I think I'll turn up.
You're the only Martha Josephson in there, I'm sure. Great. Well, thank you so much, Martha. We really appreciate it.
It was fun. Thank you.
Thanks.